Alrighty, guys. It's ugly this week. It's real ugly. But when you got a show to do, you got a show to do. So, let's get into it. The news of the week, obviously, is going to be the crypto rout that happened over the weekend. Started late on Saturday, really escalated on Sunday quite a bit. And the whole week has really been a giant mess because of it. Couple of interesting things there, I guess. Coinbase IPO last week. Ridiculous valuation. Don't buy it. Again, you see the disclaimer at the beginning of these videos. None of this is investment advice, but don't buy it. It's way too expensive. It's not worth that. Anyway. So there's some competing theories that the surge in availability has contributed to some pricing volatility. There was some rumors going around that the hash rate had been cut. For those of you that don't know anything about hash rates in crypto, look it up. I'm not going to try to explain it. The internet will already do that much better than I will. But essentially what happened, and why I'm in the red, is that I tried to buy the dip. And it's not working great. It was worse on yesterday. It was worse yesterday. It's getting better. But yeah, that's where we are. Kyle and Kyle, as the only two people in this competition that do not have any stake in any form of crypto, it looks like you're having a hard time too, and I'm kind of curious as to why that is.
Honestly, it seems, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of, Delta took a dump. TSMC is,
Hashtag analysis.
yeah. These are experienced investor words. And Pinterest is just like dropped like there's like a hard cliff. Like it just crashed. So
Yeah, this has not had a good week. You have lost over 16.5% in a week on Pinterest.
Yeah, so that's been not fun to watch. Pinterest always seems to have these weird, like they kind of blow up, but they also just drop like a stone too.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that is. I don't have the experience to like analyze that. But so yeah, I mean Pinterest was a huge one in me dropping. Everyone else seems a little, like similar at least.
Okay.
Like, they didn't drop significantly, but yeah. So it's those three big players.
Home Depot hasn't saved you this week?
Home Depot has been carrying me a bit. It's actually been, honestly, it's probably one of my best moves. But, yeah, I mean, it hasn't really been doing well enough to pull me out of the hole that those big three are doing for me.
So, on the Home Depot front, I did see where they have not put out any statements about the new voter registration laws in the state of Georgia, which is obviously problematic because those laws are objectively terrible. So, I am curious to see if they are going to be the subject of any widespread boycott talk. But it's too early to tell. But I am curious to see whether or not there's any spillover effects from that, because you have a lot of companies like Coca-Cola and other folks who are from the same region who have already come out very definitively and said, we don't support these, go after somebody else, effectively. So, something to watch there. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to get anywhere or not, but a potential variable to be aware of. Kyle, what about you? I'm negative, and you and I still are not that far apart, so there has to be something going on here.
Well, last week, I think just Boeing and Shopify just haven't had a great last 2 weeks. So,
Okay.
Everything else is kind of minor losses are pretty flat, but Boeing and Shopify have had a rough last 4 days, I would say, for me. So that is where most of my losses are concentrated. Or I guess it's where I lost most of my gains that I had from this month.
Okay. I mean, for the month, they're not down that much. It's this week in particular where most of that damage has come from.
Yeah, they made up a lot of my gains for the month.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Those are pretty much all gone
I gotcha. I see. Well, in an effort, like I mentioned earlier, to buy the dip, I shuffled some things around this week. I exited my position at Target for 5.5 or 6%. Wasn't great, but they were at an all-time high, and I was greedy and wanted to buy the dip, so I sold them, and I split all of that. I put half of it into Ethereum, so now I have Bitcoin and Ethereum, which may prove to be a really, really bad idea. We'll see. And then the other one I bought was commercial metals recycling, which sounds really boring and not sexy, and it honestly probably isn't. But what they do is they take industrial scrap metal and all kinds of other things like that, and they recycle it into things that can be used to produce new product. So from an ESG front, I feel like this is a pretty good call. We vetted them before. They've actually been listed on our website in previous rounds of beta testing. So those of you that have been with us for a while, probably sounds familiar. I figured with all this talk about chip shortages and electric cars and all this other stuff that is happening, I figured like recycling of some of those related components has to be a reasonably good idea. I mean, maybe that's loose analysis. Maybe that's not quite technical enough, but they fundamentally look like they're undervalued. So I'm curious to see if that's going to get me anywhere. It may cost me the month of April to find out. We'll see soon enough. But if I lose 1 month to win a whole bunch of the other ones, I feel like that's okay.
I'm not sure if the month of April is really anyone's.
No, and when I say lose the month of April, I don't mean try to get first. I just mean try not to get last.
Yeah.
So, for those of you wondering where Austin is, he has not been eaten by a tropical animal. He is out in a region where there is no cell service, so we may see him again sometime. But he's got to make it back first. But yes, so Ripple actually in the last week has actually given up about 3.5% of where he was last week. So he's coming back to the pack slowly. Very slowly.
There's a chance.
Yes, there is a chance. But yeah, amidst all of the volatility with crypto and stuff, they fared better than most for a while. And then the market caught up to them in the last 3 or 4 days in particular. Really the interesting thing, though, I was looking at some of them the other day, and there are a handful of these that used to just be like pennies on the dollar that are up ludicrous amounts of money. I mean, Neo, if any of you are familiar with Neo, that was up like 45% on, I think it was on Monday? It was up like 45% in a single day. Obviously, those of you that have been following Doge know that they tried to turn today into Doge Day. 420 was supposed to be Doge Day. I don't know why. Of all the days on the calendar, you picked that one for some reason. So they had a record high today and then gave a bunch of it back after people bought it and sold it really fast. It's a wild place to be. At this point, I will honestly admit that this is... I wouldn't consider this investing at this point unless you consider it investing in, like, I guess, consumer culture and popular demand. Like, there's... people who are super into it will tell you that there are technical things that they keep track of, and those people are right. They track those things, and that is what they use. I am not one of those people. I look at it and say, there's a ton of demand for this. Okay, let me just buy some and see what happens. So at this point, I'm practically full-on gambling. Don't do that. Not advice. I'm curious to see what happens, but it's going to be wild.
Just throwing darts at a dartboard, basically.
I mean, I figured of all the cryptos to buy, the largest and the second largest by market cap would probably be a good place to start.
The most stable, probably, right?
Well, but see, that's the thing. At this point, you're trading off potential upside because they're already worth so much. Versus, something like a Dash or a Ripple or a, whatever. That's $1.
Last time we met up, I was saying, like, do you just start investing random amounts into these really low percentage, like really low value coins and just hope that one of them hits?
I mean, honestly, I would be okay with putting like $100 into all of them and just see what happens. But be prepared to not see any of it ever again. If you're going to do that.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the same with tradition, just investing in general, right?
It is. Technically, they do tell you that if you're going to invest, you need to be prepared to never see any of it ever again. So.
Yeah, but it's traditional investing is not nearly as risky as like crypto. I'm guessing.
It can be.
It can be.
Well, you don't know anything about the companies you're investing in, right? But like, it's just.
Well, even when you do, right? I mean, 2008, those things were supposed to be too big to fail, and then it comes out that they've been creating these super shady investment products and selling them to each other, and somebody has to get caught holding the bag, and boom goes the dynamite,
Yeah.
Gonna be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, I would say that they're both equally risky for different reasons. Obviously, like, global financial markets of established companies have 1,000,001 variables of things that could go wrong, shareholder expectations, price targets. I mean, there's a lot that goes into all of that. And any of that can be a reason that something absolutely craters. I feel like the crypto landscape is a little bit simpler. Again, people who are super devout and super technical will point to 1,000,001 things, and that's fine. You do your thing. I personally will distill it down to there is a speculative belief that the scarcity of these resources is eventually going to make them worth obscene amounts of money. Like, you're already seeing it. One Bitcoin is like $57,000. It's like, enough people have bought into the theory that these things are functional as stores of value. And I would agree, frankly. Like, I think they can be very effective stores of value. Blockchain as a technology, I think, has a lot of other things that haven't really been tapped into. But, I mean, it's just a variable, People's perception of it as a store of value fluctuates just like anything else, and there's your movement, just like you get with any other stock. So, but enough about that. I am curious, as we are in this kind of weird space with the pandemic, of things are kind of getting better, but they're not really getting better, but maybe they are depending on where you live. If you all were me, let's get some draft grades on this. Would you have sold Target where it was?
Where was it?
So Target was at a 52-week high at... I should have been more prepared. Now let me pull it up for you and give you a question. So Target was at like $208.
Okay.
It's now at $207.23.
So it hasn't really moved.
So it hasn't really moved. My question though is, again, with where we are in the market, are you bullish or are you bearish on retail having a strong finish to the year? Because unemployment is still an issue for some people. State restrictions are still issues for some people. And yet everybody has to buy stuff.
What did you sell? You sold this to buy crypto?
I sold it to buy crypto and my commercial metals recycling company, yes.
I think in the interest of this competition, that was probably not a bad move. IRL investing? I think it's a little bit more questionable.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat, I guess, because like for me, I've been going at this with pretty much a more like real life type investing strategy. So for me, I'm like, it's
I think
little.
For me, in general, I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty for me. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things right now that are maybe overvalued. like in the market. But
I mean, honestly, like 80% of the entire exchange feels overvalued at this point.
Well,
Maybe
so, yeah,
more.
So like for me, you asked me like, do I feel bearish on Target for the rest of the year? And the answer is maybe, but like without everything else collapsing, like I don't think Target would collapse first if that's what you're asking. So at the point where it's collapsing, like maybe it doesn't matter.
Okay. So you're saying it at the point where it goes somewhere, everything else is too far gone. The damage has already been done.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like I don't see a scenario where like Target specifically fails, and like the rest of the
No, I mean the rest of the retail space would feel similar effects. You'd have to think.
So yeah, I don't necessarily think that I'm like bearish, but I just kind of like I just feel like there's a very long, or it's like a very it's a tipping point that is being approached at some point. So you just gotta figure out what that is. Is that all investing? So.
I mean, it depends on what theory you subscribe to. If you try to time the market, then yes, everything is in theory a tipping point. The empirical data shows that you cannot time the market, and anybody who says that they can is usually just lucky.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you selling now, like maybe that's a good thing because you're lucky. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, luck is a huge part. I honestly will say of being successful at a lot of these things. But to your point about market corrections, I was looking at both of your portfolios the other day, and generally speaking, everybody's been fairly stable. I think we've all made a move or two, but nobody's really been hyper aggressive in terms of turning things over in their own portfolio. So, if you're in a space where Kyle is and you're thinking about if the market corrects and everything drops precipitously to a certain degree, having never encountered this before, like, are you prepared? Are you looking at if things go south tomorrow, what would I buy instead? Would you be happy with holding it and just letting it sit until everything comes back? I mean, have you thought about your strategy, I guess, at all?
No, I mean, like, I'd be fine just holding. If the market collapses, the market collapses. Like, it doesn't really matter at that point. The money that I put in there is probably gone no matter who I invested in. And I just have to hope that I pick people who survive. Like, honestly, the financial aftermath. Like, it's like, it's pretty straight. And honestly, like, like some of the companies you invest in, like Microsoft, like you hope, like, even if something bad were to really happen, everything on the market were to lose like 20%, like Microsoft would still be worth something, like, like.
Yep.
And if it's not, like if the world changes so much that company is not worth anything anymore, if Amazon is not worth something in 20 years, you tell me that Amazon is worth nothing in 20 years, I'd be like, honestly, things change so much, I don't even want to begin to guess at what is worth something in 20 years. So, whatever. Okay, cool.
Okay, so you're not worried about it. You're not trying to predict the future at all. Okay.
You just asked me, like, do I think it's a good idea that you sold Target? And I say, maybe, because, like, it might blow up tomorrow. I do think it's going to blow up, so yeah, maybe. It might. But, the only good move, to like, is, if the market is going to crash, just have cash. That's the only, to have cash on hand and not in a bank somewhere, to have it in your hands. That's the only good move, so, I don't know.
Uh-oh. Gallon Ziploc bags under the bed again?
Nice.
Yikes.
Carved out mattress.
I mean, we think that kind of stuff is crazy, and yet I feel like a couple times a year there's news stories of, like, when somebody passes away, their descendants go into their house and find, like, all this money just, like, lumped in a shoebox or something. It's...
There's still older people who have lived through, harder economic times, and it's not like there hasn't
I know, but that's so unsafe.
Some people look at putting your money in a bank and say the same exact same thing.
But there's FDIC insurance for a reason. Even if the bank goes under, the FDIC will get you your money. The shoebox in your closet is not going to get you your money if somebody walks into your house and steals it.
Like people who died in the last 20 years
Well, so you have to remember that FDIC insurance is a response to some of these things.
Yeah,
So
like,
depending on how old you are, I mean...
Like, like, just because you basically were like, the government lost, we know the government lost your money once, but we promise it won't happen again. Some people just don't trust that, Jordan.
It's like, okay, I've heard this before.
Okay, so we have one devil's advocate vote for keeping your money in a shoebox.
No, I'm not saying keep your money in a shoebox. I'm just saying, like, that would have been the only smart idea if it. Well, I do not have.
Okay.
I do not have copious amounts of cash hidden in my townhouse because
I don't carry paper money anymore at all.
yeah,
Like
I don't carry
if you asked me to furnish you a dollar bill in any amount right now, I could not do it.
I could give you $1. I get cash when I do specific things. Like I get cash. Like I recently went to the baseball game. I got cash for that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because actually I got cash for that. I didn't even end up needing it because what I was gonna do was I was gonna buy something to bring into the stadium, and then I found out you cannot bring anything into the stadium. So I was like, all right, well I don't even need to go buy anything now. So that was a waste of time. And inside the stadium, everyone's got card readers now, so that doesn't even matter. There's no people carrying concessions through the stands. So
no, I can't imagine that's very COVID compliant right now.
It's not very COVID friendly, so you can't give cash to those people. So you're right, I didn't really need cash, but I do get cash sometimes. But besides that, you're right. I live in a plastic or online world, or paying with my phone is sometimes more convenient. But even when my friends, you used to be like, okay, well I need cash, if we're buying something together, and they're like, okay, you gotta pay me back. It's like you don't even need that anymore. You send them money electronically through a service. There's so many different services now. You can Venmo, you can Cash App, you can PayPal, you can Zelle, or whatever the hell.
Snapchat? Is that
you can Snapchat cash people now.
You can Facebook cash money. You can do all kinds of stuff.
So it's really, the paper money is really not super important anymore.
Okay.
It all goes away.
Kyle's strategy for the recession: paper money. Bring it back.
Yes, I will just keep $500 on me, and then I'll be the richest man on earth because I'll be the only person with cash.
Like Polaroid cameras and
Cash.
all kinds of other retro things. Cassette tapes. I'm trying to think of what else would come back around. Oh my. Okay, somehow or another we started talking about investing and then we got into Polaroid cameras and paper money. Okay. We are at the point in the show where the calendar says the 20th of April. So I always have to ask, between now and the end of the month, any changes? I mean, at this point, I think we can all agree we're playing for second. So it's not about winning; it's about not losing.
Oh, that's always been my goal. I know so little that I just don't want to lose.
You're in second right now. That has to be worth something.
That is true. It feels good. I'm back where I think was it the first month that first month I was third.
No, you ended up second. Austin ended up third. It was really close, though. There was tenths of a percentage point involved, I think.
But yeah, for me, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty comfortable with my picks, I guess, but at the same time, I don't know that I have any more rabbits in a hat.
Okay. Okay.
So I think I'd stay, and hopefully things rebound. Because I'm pretty much everything that's down for me has been a big gainer for me. So
yeah.
I don't know that I want to get rid of them.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, your score within the app for how you are performing, I think the higher number is better. Yours is better than mine, so good for you. And then poor Kyle is still trying to rebound from a rocky start, so his score is lower than all of ours, but that's okay.
I think for me, I don't know if I'd make any changes in the retail space. I think those are all space. But cryptocurrency, I guess starting next month, if you want to be competitive in the competition, probably have to pick up some things. Because I need to find a coin to purchase by, starting next month. But this month it doesn't seem like it matters.
You could buy the dip now if you found one that you really liked that was down, but
it's true. Gotta find one that's gonna rally.
Yeah, if it hasn't already. I feel like that's the hard part with some of these things. The dip is such a short amount of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you hear people talking about trading on looking at 5-minute or minute candles. And
Oh, I mean, the fancy brokerages that handle money for rich people, like, their supercomputers go down to millionths of a second.
No, thank you.
And that difference oftentimes equates to massive amounts of money. Yeah, if you need a fun thing to look up and go down a rabbit hole on the internet, that's a good one. How much money is made and lost in amounts of time smaller than you can even comprehend?
Yeah. Can't even fathom it.
Pretty wild.
How many zeros behind that first number? How many commas?
I mean, at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's spans of time far shorter than that they use. I just don't know what you would call them at that point. My vocabulary runs out at trillion and billion, so anything beyond that, I'm not smart enough. Well, to answer my own question, I think at this point, I mean, I just made some changes, so I got to ride those out and see what's going on. Has not been a great week. Hasn't been a spectacular month, obviously, since I'm in the negative. Year performance is salvageable. I feel like I'm still in a fairly good spot at what am I at? Yeah, I mean, I'm at 17% for the year still, so that's not bad. I just have to, I guess, hope that crypto bounces a little bit more aggressively than it has been, and we'll see what happens. Well, alrighty, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Good luck with the rest of the week, guys. Ride out your volatility, see what happens, and we'll talk to you again soon.